Hi, welcome to Education Roundtable. My name is Tom Salter, and we're going to spend a few minutes talking with one of our newest employees, and we're very excited that she's here. Her name is Alexis Smith, and she's our new Director of Technology. Good day. Honestly, I don't know if this is morning, afternoon, or evening, so we'll just say good day.
Well, hello.
Welcome to the show, and also welcome to MPS.
Glad to be here.
Everybody talks about technology and how it's the way our kids are learning now because the way things have changed at home and the devices and things that they have as well. But let's start with you. Tell us about you. Where have you been and where's your education from, all that sort of stuff.
Well, I graduated from Alabama State University, and I also graduated from Troy State University, Montgomery, here,
yeah,
Computer Information Systems.
Great.
And then I went ahead and received my master's degree in Information Systems and with the concentration in management from University of Phoenix online.
Wonderful.
And now I am about to finish my doctoral degree.
Wow.
And it's in organizational leadership with a concentration in information systems and technology.
So what do you do in your spare time? I mean, my goodness,
I do a lot of community service.
Oh, wow, fantastic.
Yep.
Well, it makes perfect sense to get an IT degree online, so
Yes.
that's cool. So, a doctor, huh? So,
Yes.
am I going to have to start saluting whenever I see you in the
No,
hall?
you don't have to
Okay,
salute
all right.
me.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, let's talk about the technology and education a little bit. Kids today learn differently than they did when I was a kid. I'm much older than you are. And when I rode my dinosaur to school, you know, we had chalkboards. We didn't even have whiteboards. We had chalkboards. And when I took what is now called keyboarding for our students as they learn to use computers, I took typing with a manual typewriter, and it still serves me well today, of course. But talk a little bit about how kids learn today using technology and what MPS is doing to try to move toward using that as much as we can in the classroom.
Well, we talk about technology integration and we talk about student engagement. And so you want to keep them involved because you have to think about it. They get disconnected when they come to school, but at Montgomery Public Schools, they believe in the bring your own device. So when you bring your own device, your students can actually utilize all of their different tools as a technology piece for school. So the teachers can actually use technology integration. They can screen share or cast all of their devices onto the actual computers or the interactive panels that are on in the classrooms as well. So what that means is that the students are able to actually physically engage. So they no longer have to sit there, wait for their hand to be raised to actually share some information. If a teacher actually allows the ability for the students to do interactive activities, especially dealing with curriculum, and with the K-12 curriculum, everything is about technology integration. So it's about the core standards. So those 4 major core standards, but within those core standards like math, science, English, and all the different things that they have to do in the different components, it is very important that whatever device it is, whether it's going to be a tablet, whether it's going to be a mobile device or phone, or whether it's going to be Chromebooks, which is all of the things that we use as well as PCs in the classroom, that the teacher is able to actually integrate that inside of her lesson plans, but to also be able to share that with the students, which in turn helps the parents. So when a parent is able to actually open up and share with their children what's going on a day-to-day basis in the classroom, that opens up a collaborative effort. And in that means that the teachers, the students, and the parents are able to cohesively talk to one another, not only using devices because you email every day, you also use Google. MPS is a very aware and alive and well in Google for Google certifications. They have levels 1, levels 2, admin, different things that all of their technology integrators or your technology coordinators, your media specialists, all the staff are integrated in technology. So what that means is everyone actually has a seat at the table to learn. So that not only from the students, but all the way from teachers, students, and staff, as well as parents.
That's fantastic. And you know, the first computer I ever had, I think, was an 8088 in like 1981, 82, something like that. It had 2 floppy drives, and it had one, you put in your MS-DOS, your operating system, in one drive,
Yes.
and then you put the other floppy, you put the program that you were running at the time. And I remember when I got my first hard drive, it was, I think it was 5 meg or something. I mean, it was like, it was the size of a basket, but it was only a very little bit of memory. But I thought, man, I have made it now, and I didn't need a mouse. Who needs a mouse? You don't need a mouse. Well, now you can't hardly. Well, now you don't really have as many mice as trackpad, or even just using your finger on the touch screen. That's right. But you're right about us. Some of us kicking and screaming, but us coming into the technical age. In the administration now, we use Google Docs.
Yes.
On almost everything. If somebody has something to review, it goes on Google Docs. Pardon me, and then everybody can put their hand in it. But that's excellent, because that's the way the world works today.
Yes.
Manufacturers are no longer looking for just somebody who can work independently. They want people who work collaboratively. And using technology is certainly one way to do that. You mentioned bring your own device.
Yes.
And that's because we don't have the funding to buy devices for all of our students.
Not for all of the students, no. And some students in some schools don't have all of the technology that's needed. Mm-hmm. So you have to write grants, or you have to deal with anything for state funding. Mm-hmm. So you have to rely on federal funds as well. So the biggest thing and the biggest caveat is, how do you get all the technology in the school systems to make sure and prepare our students for the real world? Mm-hmm. In order to prepare them for cloud computing, especially, like you said, Google, that's a free platform that we're using. Right. So you also have to look for those type of tools to use and integrate into the classroom as well. So it's kind of hard, because back in the day, they used to use different things. You had to worry about your hard drive space. You had to worry about speeds, dealing with the actual processor of your machines. Where now you have a computer that could cost between $150 to $300. Right. They're usually a Chromebook. Mm-hmm. You put those in the classrooms. Well, they have a solid state hard drive, so that the students, when they flip it around, if it's a tablet version, then they're able to use those different devices, and they're able to freely walk around the classroom, share things, actually do group sessions or group trainings or group lessons with the teacher. And so those are the type of things that help them be critical thinkers. Like you just said, they have to be prepared for the real world. And so when they go in the real world, you're working in a diverse group of people, and usually it's on a global arena, as well as being not only a challenge, but you have to deal with different things. So you have to prepare them not only for the actual technology use of it, but from an educational piece and critical thinking piece. So all of that collaboratively, that's how that works. And technology is the glue that binds that, but education comes first.
Well, one of the things that we are having trouble with right now is because of lack of funding, and I think the state this year is going to, or has given us, like $75 per student for textbooks. Well, and we, by law, have to buy the textbooks starting with the lower grades, kindergarten, first, second grade, first. And a single textbook can cost more than $100. And anybody who has kids in college, you know that's true, and it's the same for high school and elementary, middle school books. So if we spend, when we buy books for kindergarten, first, second, third grade, the money's gone. So we have books, we don't have the books we need for our middle and high school students. And people have said, well, why don't you just use online textbooks? But there are a couple of problems with that, aren't there?
Yes. Sometimes when you deal with that, of course, you have to have a one-to-one solution, and preferably also a solution
You're going to have to explain what that means.
Okay. So a one-to-one solution is when every student in the school system has a device in their hand.
Right.
Not only having the ability to have it in their hand, but to take it home. Mm-hmm. So that one-to-one solution allows the computer to be taken home, signed out. Parents also say, okay, my baby or my child or my student that lives in this home has this device, and we have to be responsible. Well, with that comes all types of signing. You have to have an agreement, and you have to make sure end-user agreements are signed, authorized use. Those type of forms have to be signed. Mm-hmm. But the caveat to that is, if you can't afford that one-to-one solution, because the school system at MPS has over 29,000 students. So when you have 29,000 students, that means you need 29,000 devices.
Right.
So whether you choose it to be an iPad, a Samsung tablet, Windows tablets, Chromebook tablets, or whatever tablet that you choose, that's going to be an added cost.
Well, and then there's also the infrastructure.
Yes. When you have wireless infrastructure, you're fine. If you're dealing with rural school systems and your students don't have the capability of actually utilizing internet when they're at home, that's another issue, which comes with broadband networking. So when the state of Alabama has a fiber backbone and then they're actually able to disseminate that across the board for free, those are the things that we're looking forward to in the future, 2020, 2024, hopefully.
Even within our schools, I remember only a couple of 3 years ago, there was a lot of conversation about how expensive it was to upgrade our schools from a power standpoint, and also just having all the internet boxes or modems or whatever the heck you call those things up in the school, so that it could, if you've got I mean, for instance, Lee High School has 1,600 kids.
Yes.
If you have 1,600 people all on the internet at one time, I mean, that just doesn't magically happen. You have to have the right number of modules or whatever the heck they're
you
called.
have to have a network infrastructure. And the network infrastructure is the backbone of an actual school system, whether it's going to be primary or secondary education. The biggest thing when you're dealing with that is servers, routers, and all the different things or components such as fiber. So if you have the fiber backbone, you have your network infrastructure set up, which is what we use E-rate for, and that deals with universal schools and libraries.
Okay, now E-rate, let's not get anybody off track yet.
Okay.
E-rate is what people pay. Is it a cable and phone bill? Is that right?
Yes.
Or just one or the other?
Usually it's the cable and the phone bill,
Okay.
but sometimes it's a lot dealing with the telephone. But the universal schools and libraries, they federally fund you, or each school system, by a certain percentage. So you have free schools and free and reduced lunches. Those are the items that allow your school to be classified in a certain number, so that in the matrix or when they're awarding money, they can decide how much will go to your school. There's categories and different priorities, and there's eligible items and ineligible items. So for our school system, we have 85%, and some schools are 90%, even though we are free and a 100% free and reduced school lunch. That's what we fall under at MPS. So in that case, we have to yearly apply for infrastructure. You have to deal with the network. You have to deal with all of the wirings, the upgrades, the wireless, everything that we talked about. That's the backbone of your network system. All of those items have to be, you have to really spec it out. So you have to have a strategic plan in place. And once you have that strategic plan in place for your technology, then you can actually go and apply for all of these services. If you don't apply, and if you don't apply properly, you may not be awarded the money, and we have to do the matching funds for that. And so since it looks like we are overly abundant when it comes down to technology sometimes, it's not so, because we have older equipment that needs to be updated. So we don't have all of the money that's necessary, which is why we always apply for all these different grants, or we apply for schools, apply for E-rate funding. So it's very important that we vote certain ways so we can get the money that's needed, or we talk to the lobbyists, or do the things that we need to do for the House and Senate to say, hey, this is education. You want our children to have everything that's needed. This is what we're going to need to supply them with everything that they're needing.
So first we have to have the instrument, the Chromebook or the whatever,
device,
the
yes.
device. Then we have to have the infrastructure in the school to support that device, and that means continually upgrading equipment and
Yes.
adding more
Hardware,
as we need
software, all of
and
those.
just plugs, just having enough plugs.
You
in
have
the
to have
wall.
enough network.
No,
network.
I mean just for electricity. I mean,
Oh,
if
yes.
you've got 14
Power.
Yeah, power. If you've got
You need power.
all these high tech words, power. If you don't have enough places to plug your phone or device or whatever in, then the battery goes dead. And then on top of that, we're dealing with kids, and kids lose things and they drop them in the tub, or they, whatever, leave them on the school bus, and all those different issues. And then on top of that, there's the cost of the book.
Yes.
Most people think, oh, well, I go to Amazon, whatever, or Audible or whatever, and I get a book for 99 cents or $1.75.
Not for school, you won't.
Not for school. What does a textbook currently? Now, maybe it'll come down in time, but right now they're still
very high. Like you said, they're about $100 for a hardback book or so. The biggest thing is ebooks now.
Well,
so you have to have the infrastructure for that. So they're
Right.
about $30 to $50 depending on what you get sometimes, and also depending on what the company does. So we buy a lot of things from Pearson. So Pearson has a different publishing company, is a publishing company, and what they do is they give you the option to have the hardback or an e-version, which is your electronic version.
Right.
Sometimes you call it an EPUB, or you just call it a PDF version, and then it has to have digital rights. So if you don't have digital rights, then you can copyright it. You don't want a student be out there just giving away your books.
Right.
So there's different things and different caveats to that as well. But you have to have that infrastructure in place. And once again, you have to have the strategy in place, and you have to write all of that up and document what you're going to do. And once you have a plan, you can effectively push it, but you also have to have devices.
Right.
So every student, if you're going to give them an ebook, or you're going to make sure that they have electronic devices, they have to have an electronic device, then you have to have the actual document itself, but then you have to make sure that they're able to pull that stuff up at home. So using Google Classroom, an actual teacher can go in and attach a book. However, they have to have that book for their class,
Which
for their
means
curriculum.
money for each
Yes.
copy of it.
Yes.
So if let's just round it around, let's just say it's $50 per student per book. And most students take 6, 7, some of our kids have 8
7
classes.
periods.
And so if you have 7, that's what, $350 in books per year. You don't get to reuse those.
And you're not getting that much money per student.
No, we're not. Plus the $300-ish device.
Yes.
Plus the money that it takes to keep the infrastructure.
You have your wide area network, you have
Right.
your local area network, and you have all those devices and the network infrastructure that control those.
And we have to also pay for our internet.
Yes.
We don't get that. We don't get that for free.
That is not.
So it seems simple to say, just give them an ebook, but it's a lot more complicated than that. But
it is feasible. You can do it.
Sure.
You just have to have the money to do it.
Like everything else, time and money. All it takes is time. We can conquer the world with time and money.
Yes.
So where are we now, and what do we need to do to get to where we need to be?
Well, right now we're talking about funding. So everything deals with the finances. So in retrospect, we have the network infrastructure, we have the backbone. We've just awarded another company all of they won the bid and everything else that we do to make sure that RFPs are complete and everything goes through the process. So we've got all of that. We have all of that in place. Now what we have to do, once we have everything in place, is start to order online devices or online books or e-books. So once we download, purchase it, download it to the devices, which you have to make sure you have enough devices for every student. You have to have a way to figure out how to get money to make that happen. So that's when we have to write grants, or we have to petition all of the people that we partner with. Partnerships are very important at MPS because we have a lot of businesses that donate to MPS. So that's the beauty of it for our system. A lot of people don't have that opportunity though.
But let's just say that, just for round numbers, let's say that it costs $100 a year
Per student.
Per student, just in round numbers. That's $3 million
That we don't have.
that we don't have for MPS to have, but it's more than that. It's probably at least twice that if you factor in all the grades, and likely more than like 2.5 times
Yes.
that. And that's at $100. That's assuming that you get. Well, you can't do that because I mean, for a kindergarten kid, maybe it's $100. For a high school kid, it's $300 to $400 for the books, And then you have to, how long does like a Chromebook, how long does it last?
They last between 2 to 3 years, really, essentially.
As long as you don't.
As long as you're not being destructive.
Right, or lose it or try to sell it to your
Yes.
buddy. And so, but we're talking about ways to solve this problem. First of all, by one thing we're looking at is leasing. Is that right? Does that
Yes.
cut down on the cost?
If you do leasing, you don't have to purchase the hardware and then try to figure out how to dispose of that hardware
Right.
in a way that you can possibly gain money back if you're able to dispose of it. First of all, you have to wait 5 years. So if you purchase things on Title I monies, you have to wait 5 years before you can dispose of it. So it has to stay with you. So you have to retain that equipment, which of course that means that your logistics department has to deal with all of that. That's a whole nother aspect of how things have to go through the process.
Right.
So the biggest thing, I guess you can say, when you're dealing with equipment and leasing is the better option because you can lease a piece of equipment. They come back out, the company that you purchased it from, they'll come out, dispose of it, and replenish you with a whole new set. So every 3 to 5 years, you should be getting another new set of equipment which also have, or devices, which will also have new operating systems on them, which will also have better memory upgrades, so speeds and processes, you wouldn't have issues with that.
And they take care if there's if one breaks, they give you a new one or repair the
Yes.
one. So
It all depends on how your contract is written.
Right.
Do you do an RMA, which means that they'll send out basically a UPS box to you, FedEx box or what have you. You put that in there and then it fixes. Or sometimes if you deal with a vendor that's local and they have someone that's able to come out, they'll come out to resolve that problem. All depends on how you write up the contract.
Right, right. And if you can imagine with 29,000 students using these devices every day, there are going to be quite a few that end up
Broken or keys popped off
Right,
of them
right.
or screens are broken, things
Right,
of that nature.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then there's the cost of continuing to upgrade the infrastructure.
Yes.
And making sure that we have enough plugs,
Well,
enough power.
plus you have different bandwidth types. You have all the different wireless, the types of actual wireless integrations. So you have different bands. So you have to look at if you have an older device, it may not even be able to get onto your network, which is why we phased out Windows XPs,
Right.
and we have Windows 10, and we have iOS devices as well as Mac operating systems. So you have to realize that everything that you do that's going to upgrade is going to be a thing or an issue where you have to make sure that your network infrastructure can hold all of those devices and can allow you to manage all of those devices at the same time.
Well, have we done enough of a study? I know you've only been here a very, very short period of time, but have you had an opportunity yet to look at the big picture and figure out, what it would take, either in an initial investment and then an ongoing annual cost, or just in terms of the annual cost to you? And I'm just throwing this at you, so if you don't know, it's okay.
Oh,
But
no.
have you gotten that far?
Well, I've done a technology assessment, taken in stock of all of the inventory, spoke with my entire staff. We sat down and looked at everything, spec'd it out, and determined that this is why we want to do technology standardization, so that we can supply not only professional development, but we can make sure that the contracts where we're buying all or purchasing these devices from have everything that's needed to, first of all, be cost effective.
Right.
Because we have to be mindful, like you said, $3 million every student. That would be an every 3 to 5 year initiative. So we would need that type of money to replenish it, to purchase, which is why that leasing part comes into play. However, with all of the devices, with everything that we roll out, and every summer, pretty much in the summer, that's when we roll out all of the hardware. So after talking with the staff, those are the different things that they deal with on an annual basis. So in order to do that, we also have to hire summer help so that we can roll out those type of things, and also deal with our network contracting company that deals with our support. So they also come out and they disseminate their technicians out to a different location or dispatch them out to a different location. And we have all of the devices re-imaged and things like that that are sufficient, or shall we say the hardware is still eligible to be on the network. If it's anything that's 2 gigs and below, we want to take that off of the network. That bottlenecks and slows down what's going on as far as packets coming through for internet and things of that nature, because the hardware is older. So those are the type of things that we have to look at as well. Phasing out anything old while we bring in something new. But leasing options are a part of all of those, and we're looking into that for now.
So, but do you have a dollar figure?
Not a dollar
Not a
figure
dollar
yet,
figure?
not
Okay.
yet.
Okay. So it's still, but it's more than $50.
Oh yes, way more than $50 a student. Yes.
Yeah. Well, we're hoping that we get there one day, and we hope that we're able to convince folks that we need a little more money, and we're going to use it the way that we need to make our students perform at a higher level. Well, you're new. What have you learned so far? What any surprises or anything different than what you thought it would be?
No, I used to work in Bullitt County, so for 5 years I was there as their director of technology.
Right.
So for me, it's like coming home. So I wanted to give back. So education and technology, those are what makes my little heart beat. And so for me, I want to give to the students. I want to give to the educators. I want to provide to the admin. But in that means professional development. I want everyone to know what I know. I want everybody to know everything that I don't know. I want to provide those services. And then when you're dealing with students, you want to mold them so that they are prepared when they go to college. You want to mold the younger ones so that they're prepared when they go to middle school and high school. You want to make sure everybody is ready for technology, because in the real world, when they get there, there are all sorts of different devices. So they have to know which ones, and they have to know all of them, if you ask me, so that they'll be proficient in all of them and they can work anywhere.
And that's what the employers want. Well, I tell you, you have a great group of folks working with you. It's a small, but I tell people all the time, our geeks can beat up your geeks because we've got some really good folks.
Yes.
David Norris and Drew, whose last name escapes me all of a sudden.
Drew Douglas.
Drew Douglas, that's right.
And Cliff Thomas.
All
and Ann Medina.
Oh, Funky Cole Medina.
And Steve Blair.
And all those guys over there are just guys and ladies.
Yes.
Are just wonderful. They work very hard. We have a help desk that
they are
can
phenomenal.
Call. They are. They can
they
call
really are.
anytime there's an issue. And our parents are also involved in this. And I wish we had time to talk about that because our iNow parent portal, or whatever iNow calls themselves now.
Yes. Chalkable. Power Schools.
Thank you. Is available for parents to find out more about, to stay in touch. But we've got, unfortunately, we don't have time for that.
But I wanted to talk about online registration.
Well, we'll talk about that next time, I promise.
Okay.
But I really appreciate you being here. Alexis Smith has been our guest today, and she's our new Director of Technology for Montgomery Public Schools. And as you can tell, there's a lot to be excited about with technology at MPS, and we appreciate you turning on your device and watching us today. Thanks. Have a great day.